On today's episode, Artyom Levshunov squares off with Ivan Demidov. The Blackhawks sign Aidan Thompson and Ryan Greene, and Pat Maroon and Alec Martinez hang up the skates. All that and more on this beefy episode of Locked On Blackhawks.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Blackhawks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. On today's show, I'll discuss Artyom Levshunov squaring off with Ivan Demidov for the first time in the NHL as the Blackhawks take on the Montreal Canadiens here this evening. I'll also discuss Ryan Greene and Aidan Thompson being the two latest Blackhawks prospects to sign their entry-level contracts, as well as Pat Maroon and Alec Martinez officially playing in their final NHL games. Make sure to go and hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube if you haven't done so already. All of that is 100% free, will not cost you anything, and really does help me out in a massive way in growing the show. But happy Monday, everyone. Thank you all again for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Hope everyone out there had themselves a wonderful weekend. I know I certainly did, as someone who is a lifelong golf fan. Watching Rory McIlroy achieve the career Grand Slam, winning the Masters yesterday was truly one of the best sporting days I've ever watched, probably since the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup last in 2015. Hope some of you out there enjoyed watching that as much as I did. But getting into Blackhawks stuff here on today's show, before I dive into Artyom Levshunov, the second overall pick in the 2024 NHL draft, squaring off tonight with Ivan Demidov, the man who was firmly in the conversation for the Blackhawks at number 2, ended going up number 5 to the Montreal Canadiens. They're meeting up in the NHL for the first time this evening. I'll touch on that during segment 2 of today's episode. And a quick reminder, everything is always time-coded down in the description on every single show, so that way you can skip to whatever part you want in every single episode. I'm sure there are some people tuning into today's show that immediately want to hear about Levshunov and Demidov going toe-to-toe tonight. You can easily do that and skip this first segment by clicking down in the description. But for those of you who do want to stick around, before I get into that good stuff, definitely want to go through the Blackhawks' final home game of the 24-25 regular season from over the weekend when they took on the Winnipeg Jets, because we definitely got a couple of noteworthies to get into from this one, with the first being Pat Maroon suiting up in what was officially his final NHL game for the Blackhawks. We had seen Maroon be healthy scratched mostly since he announced his retirement a couple of weeks ago in St. Louis. I had talked on the show that with this being the case, you knew that Maroon was going to get one final opportunity to get back into the lineup, with the Hawks closing out the regular season today and tomorrow on a 2-game road trip up in Canada. Made the most sense for that to occur on Saturday at the United Center for Mr. Pat Maroon. The real surprise of this, though, Blackhawks fans, was joining him was Alec Martinez, who hadn't announced his future plans up until this point. But like Pat Maroon did in St. Louis prior to the puck drop against the Jets on Saturday, Martinez joined Darren Pang on CHSN to announce that he will be hanging up the skates following this season as well. So 2 3-time Stanley Cup winners calling it a career on Saturday, playing in their final NHL games with the Blackhawks, just having so many kids on the scene. And as I'll talk about during segment 3 on today's show, having another in Ryan Greene joining the NHL roster, along with the slew of defensemen who are with the NHL club right now, with the Blackhawks being where they're at in this point of the season, only 2 games left. It makes the most sense to be giving the kids all of these opportunities. So the final chance for Maroon and Martinez to get into the lineup was on Saturday. But what a career it was for both of these guys. And despite them only being part of the Blackhawks organization for 1 year, classy move by the Blackhawks for giving them video tributes and honoring the incredible careers that these 2 late round draft picks went on to have. I mean, Martinez was a 4th-round pick. Pat Maroon, a 6th-round pick. Both guys not only went on to win the Stanley Cup 3 times, but even though they weren't the most well-known players on their team, still hugely important pieces and incredible goals during those runs, some of those runs as well. Pat Maroon, obviously, during his tribute, they showed the Game 7. I can't remember if it was the 2nd round. I think it was the 2nd round against the Dallas Stars, him scoring the Game 7 winner in St. Louis in his hometown. I remember still where I was in college. Of course, I went to the University of Missouri, so it was a big day for Blues fans, and being the diehard Blackhawks fan that I am, I was really hoping the Dallas Stars were going to pull that one out, but Maroon scoring the overtime winner there to advance the Blues onto the next round, winds up winning the Stanley Cup for his hometown team. One of the few players, I think there's only 6. I know I talked about it when Maroon first announced his retirement. Can't remember it off of the top of my head right now, but one of the few players to win Stanley Cups in 3 consecutive seasons with 2 different teams. An incredible career that Pat Maroon went on to have. An incredible career for Alec Martinez as well. 37-year-old veteran defenseman, 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Los Angeles Kings, another Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. And the way that he played, he was truly, while again, he was only a member of the Blackhawks for 1 year. I'm sure a lot of us Blackhawks fans are familiar with Alec Martinez because he was a part of those Kings teams that would go head-to-head with the Blackhawks all those years in the postseason. But he was a very Nicholas Hjalmarsson-like defenseman throughout his career, right? Never known for his offensive contributions, never racked up point totals or was scoring on the power play. Wasn't the biggest household name, but was the type of defenseman that every team and every other, coach wants to have on the ice in crucial situations. Shot blocker that will stand in front of everything. You can trust him in all defensive situations. And for a guy who was known for his defense, scored some pretty clutch goals throughout his career as well, with one of those, unfortunately, being the Game 7 overtime winner in 2014 against the Blackhawks, off the back of Nick Leddy. I'll never forget where I was for that one either, and I'll also never forget where I was when Martinez scored the Game 5 Stanley Cup winner for the Los Angeles Kings against the New York Rangers, throwing his stick up in the air, doing it on home ice, the crowd erupting, the horn sounding. It was one of the most iconic NHL Stanley Cup clinching moments in the history of this game, and definitely in the last couple of decades. Alec Martinez was the one who scored that goal. So congratulations to those two guys for incredible NHL careers. For Maroon, we obviously saw this coming over the last couple of weeks. For Martinez, it's more so of a surprise, but considering the role that he played throughout his career, as I just outlined, the fact that he's 37 years old with all the mileage on his tires, was a guy who usually played for Stanley Cup contending teams, and I don't think that's a coincidence, right? A guy who, in this lone season with the Blackhawks, missed some time due to injury, has missed some time over the last couple of years due to injury as well. I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision for Alec to make because, quite honestly, when he is healthy, he looks like a guy who's still capable of playing for another couple of years down on the third line and can still hold his own in defensive situations. Scored, I think he's got 5 goals on the season for the Blackhawks, despite only playing in like 45 or 50 games. So still can contribute on the offensive side of things. But again, for the role that he played, all the mileage that he has on his tires, I do believe this is the right decision for Alec Martinez. But congratulations to those two guys. I'm super glad the Blackhawks got to give them their moment on home ice, the final home game of the season, a pretty good crowd in attendance to cheer those two guys on and show some of their biggest moments throughout their careers on the video board at the UC. It was super cool to see for both of those guys to get their moments, which they definitely deserve for their incredible careers, again, as late round draft picks. And that's what makes the sport of hockey so great, in my opinion. It doesn't matter if you're a first round pick, first overall, or you're a guy who gets selected in the 6th or 7th round. If you work hard, you can find a way in this league and anything can happen. And there's so many cool different types of stories like that. For a guy like Pat Maroon to win 3 Stanley Cups is super awesome. And for Alec Martinez to have 3 Stanley Cups too and play the vital role that he did on all of those. Super amazing stuff for both of those guys. Would have been really cool if the Blackhawks could have gotten them a win in their final NHL games, and for all the fans that showed up to the United Center in the final home game of the season. But this is the Chicago Blackhawks in 2024-2025 that we're talking about. They did get off to a good start, though, as they kind of have over the last couple of weeks, and first periods for the majority of the season really haven't been the issue. It was a really sharp start here from the Blackhawks. Nick Foligno opened up the scoring with a shorthanded goal, his 15th tally of the season. And what's going on with these shorthanded goals recently, Blackhawks fans? For the longest point in the season, I mean, probably 60 to 65 games, Ilya Mikheyev had the only shorty for this team. But over the last 2 weeks, it's like they can't stop scoring them. Over the last 11 games, Blackhawks fans, this team has now scored 5 shorthanded goals, and they have 4 in their last 6 overall. It's absolutely wild. And I think that's, even though it was from Foligno here, I don't think it's a coincidence we're starting to see the Blackhawks score more shorthanded goals and get more shorthanded opportunities, because they have more youngsters in the lineup and they have this influx. That was the word I was looking for. They have this influx of speed and energy in the lineup with all of these young players, and Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore. I've talked about this already on the show. 2 guys I think that are going to be having a lot of shorthanded breakaways, a lot of shorthanded opportunities, and scoring a lot of shorthanded goals in years to come. And Ilya Mikheyev, he's a guy I'd be looking at for a contract extension. I know his seasons in the NHL have been kind of hit or miss, but the way that he plays the game and the way that he can impact things on the penalty kill as well, I'd definitely be intrigued in giving him a couple more year extension. But I love to see this Blackhawks team just creating more opportunities in all facets of the game because of the youth and the speed they've thrown into the lineup here recently. And love to see a veteran guy like Nick Foligno be able to add on to the shorthanded tally in this run the Blackhawks have been going on here as of late. That opened up the scoring. And then on the power play, the other end of the special teams department, Connor Bedard absolutely rifles a one-timer home to put the Hawks ahead 2-0, 21st tally of the season for Connor Bedard. Sam Rinzel with the primary assist, by the way, who looks very comfortable in quarterbacking the top power play unit. That's going to be a debate for years to come, Blackhawks fans. Will it be Rinzel? Will it be Levshunov? Will it be Korchinski? Who knows who's going to be the top power play quarterback for years to come, but Sam Rinzel looks pretty comfortable in that spot right now. He now has 3 assists over his last 4 games. But unfortunately, while the first period hasn't been a problem for the Blackhawks as of late and for the majority of the season, the second period has been an issue for a long, long time. That remained prevalent in this one on Saturday against the Jets. Even though the Hawks had some looks in that middle frame, Winnipeg was the better squad. They were able to tie up the game 2-2 going into the third, and then Josh Morrissey in the opening minutes puts the Jets ahead 3-2. But how about the resiliency from the Blackhawks? And honestly, just the overall resiliency they've shown in their last 2 games since that real poor performance on the back end of their home-and-home series against the Pittsburgh Penguins last week. Real sharp performance against the Bruins to win 5-2 on Thursday. And as I'll get into here in just a second, even though they wound up losing this one, I love to see the resilience that this Blackhawks team has shown, and not letting themselves get too down too frequently and responding really well from that poor game that they had last Tuesday against the Pens. They fought back in this one. Ryan Donato equaled the score 3-3 with his 31st goal of the season. Continues to help himself get some more dollars, I'm sure, in the offseason on his next deal, whether that's going to come from the Blackhawks or not. And then how about my boy Frank the Tank Nazar buries a one-timer to put the Hawks ahead 4-3 with just under 6 minutes to play. Huge celebration from Nazar, as always, which I always love about him. He gets so pumped up and has the best sellies. And with this goal, Blackhawks fans, Nazar reaches that double-digit goal plateau, that goal that I gave him probably a month ago now. I said, would have loved to see him close the season with double-digit goals. This was his 10th of the season. Love the way that Frank Nazar has been playing to close out the year here, making an impact every single night, bringing his best stuff, drawing penalties, killing penalties, executing on the power play. He's been playing his best hockey. up in the NHL with the Blackhawks here to close out the season, and you absolutely love to see it. But unfortunately, Blackhawks weren't able to hang on to this lead late in the third period. Josh Morrissey went on to tie it 4-4 with just a couple minutes left to play, and then the Jets went on to steal it in the shootout. Spencer Knight can't go on to segment 2 without giving a shout out to Spencer Knight, though. He was incredible in that overtime. In the final moments, made one of the best saves of his Blackhawks tenure so far. Huge right pad save to get this one into a shootout. And all in all on the night, really good performance out of Spencer. Wish the Blackhawks would have been able to get it done for him. Wish they would have been able to get it done for Martinez and Maroon. Wish they would have got it done for all of the Blackhawks faithful that came out to the United Center for the last time in the 2024-2025 season. But I guess they can't all have fairy tale endings. We'll see if the Blackhawks can get into the victory column in one of their final 2 games of the season up in Canada, either tonight against the Montreal Canadiens or tomorrow in the season finale against the Ottawa Senators. But there is everything that I wanted to talk about from Saturday's 5-4 shootout loss to the Winnipeg Jets. Coming up in just a moment here, Blackhawks fans, I'll get into Artyom Levshunov squaring off with Ivan Demidov for the first time in the NHL as the Hawks take on the Montreal Canadiens. But first, I got to talk to you all real quick about Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. And Upwork gives businesses the flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or even a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. And what I personally love about Upwork is their cost-effective growth. Instead of having to hire full-time, Upwork helps find you affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. And to go and check it out right now, go and check out Upwork.com and post your job for free. Again, that's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and to grow your business today. Segment 2, the Blackhawks play in their penultimate game of the 24-25 regular season here tonight when they face off with the Montreal Canadiens, who have a major opportunity to clinch a playoff spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the final playoff spot that's available out in the Eastern Conference. And they have a chance to do it on home ice here this evening for opportunity to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time since the 2020-2021 season. They'll be able to do that with a win tonight. They just need 2 points in their final 2 games of the regular season. And as I mentioned last week, Blackhawks fans, the 5th overall pick in the 2024 NHL draft, Ivan Demidov, is set to make his NHL debut with the club tonight to give them an added boost. Ben Pope of the Chicago Sun-Times, who's already up in Montreal, the morning skates just wrapped up for both of those 2 clubs. He said he can already feel the buzz outside of the Bell Center, how excited this Habs fan base is to potentially get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs. The great play they've been getting down the stretch and all season long from young players like Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Lane Hudson, and now they get another one in Ivan Demidov. And what a season it's already been for Demidov over in Russia. Became the all-time single-season points leader by a U20 player in that league by tallying 49 points, 19 goals, and 30 assists in 65 games of action, despite not really playing a ton or being utilized in what I think a lot of people would say is the desired role for a player of his skill set, and probably because the organization and, the politics that go on over in Russia with the club, knowing that Demidov isn't a long-term part of their future. He was very clear, him and his agent, both, that they have plans of going over to North America to play in the NHL. With that being the case, it feels like the organization over in Russia that he was playing for didn't really feel the need to be playing him all that frequently or to play him in the proper role because he's not part of their long-term future, despite him still leading the team in points, while in 20 of those 65 games on the year, he played less than 10 minutes, still went on to break the, as I mentioned, U20 single-season points record, went on to sign his entry-level deal with the Canadiens last week. I believe there is a clause in there, though, that says should he not make the NHL club out of camp next year, he can go back over to Russia. However, because of this kid's skill sets, for those of you who have been following, listening, watching the show for over a year now, going back to my 2024 NHL draft coverage, then you'd know I thought the world of this kid. He was the person I wanted the Blackhawks, the player, I guess I should say, who I wanted the Blackhawks to take with the second overall pick. I thought his creativity and his uniqueness paired alongside Connor Bedard for years to come would be electric to watch. I know there were concerns about his skating mechanics, but I personally didn't really think that was going to be much of an issue at this level. And quite honestly, because it's so different and because he is still a strong skater despite having those mechanics, it honestly throws defensemen in a little bit of a loop from time to time because it's just not usually what they're used to seeing when players are coming full speed down ice in their direction. I had no concerns about Demidov. I wanted the Blackhawks to take him second overall. They wound up going with Artyom Levshunov. Still could have had Demidov at number 4. However, the Anaheim Ducks had to go and take Beckett Seneca with the third overall pick. All they had to do was take Caden Lindstrom, and sure looked like the Blackhawks had a deal in place with the Columbus Blue Jackets to go and get the 4th overall pick in this year's draft. Of course, that didn't wind up playing out, and Demidov falls into the Canadiens' hands with the 5th overall pick. So here tonight at the Bell Center, the first time that Artyom Levshunov and Ivan Demidov go head-to-head in the NHL as Demidov makes his NHL debut. The Demidov versus Levshunov debate comes to real life here tonight as the Hawks take on Montreal. Two 19-year-olds already in the big leagues, facing off, squaring off, going head-to-head. It is going to be an epic matchup, and I'm sure it's going to create some incredible discourse on Blackhawks Twitter. And I really hope Artyom Levshunov, not that he hasn't done this already during his first NHL stint, but I really hope he plays with an extra chip on his shoulder here tonight to not like prove himself right as the 2nd overall pick. As I've talked about on the show numerous times, that's a conversation and a debate that's going to be happening for a long, long time. And it's going to be many years until we truly know who was the right pick or whether Levshunov was the correct call, whether letting Demidov slide was the right call, all of that stuff. But sure is going to be fun when they face off here head-to-head for the first time in the NHL. Looks like Ivan Demidov is going to be playing a pretty substantial role for the Canadiens during their morning skate. He was on the second line playing with Alex Newhook and Yoel Armia. So I'd expect Demidov to be getting some good opportunities. Probably will be skating on one of the 2 Habs power play units. Should be fun to watch him play in his first NHL game and see, all of those skills that I've been talking about for a long time, what scouts and analysts have been hyping up. We'll see how that kind of translates on the NHL scene for the first time tonight. Super fun matchup, Blackhawks and the Canadiens. I think the Habs and the success they've had this season can give us Blackhawks fans a little bit of a example of what could be to come in the following years for the Blackhawks as more kids continue to arrive on the scene. You try to mix and match them with some good veterans, and hey, right on the cusp of getting back into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Would love for that to be the case in the near future for the Chicago Blackhawks. Coming up in just a moment, Blackhawks fans, I'll talk a little bit more about the Hawks' projected lineup for tonight's matchup against the Canadiens, and I'll also discuss Aidan Thompson and Ryan Greene signing their entry-level contracts after the NCAA tournament came to a close over the weekend. First, though, I got to talk to you all real quick about Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, then go and crack into a great source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, with each 1 ounce serving having 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily nutritional value. Plus, they're packed with fiber to help keep you feeling fuller longer. And who doesn't love a good pistachio? I know I certainly do. I literally could sit there eating and cracking them all day long. And the satisfying crack of opening each shell, it's like a little mini snack meditation. So whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids at school or at practice, whatever it may be, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch by visiting wonderfulpistachios.com right now in order to learn more. Again, that's wonderfulpistachios.com to check it out today. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Real quick, just wanted to say thank you to everyone for making Locked On Blackhawks your very first listen here to start off your day. Now for your second listen, make sure to go and check out the new Locked On NHL Game Day podcast, taking care of all of the games going down the home stretch of the regular season, every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can get local analysis on a national scale from the coverage that you love with Locked On. And you can easily find Locked On NHL Game Night right now on YouTube or wherever you may be listening to your podcasts. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, segment 3, before I close out today's episode, the NCAA tournament wrapped up over the weekend with the Western Michigan Broncos taking down Boston University 6-2 in the national championship game. Congratulations to the Broncos on winning their first national championship and a heck of a run to close out their season, winning their final 10 games. And by the way, shame on me, Blackhawks fans, real quick, for thinking Boston University didn't even have a chance to get to this point, because when I previewed the NCAA tournament, I'm sure some of you remember, I said Minnesota and Denver were the two teams with Blackhawks prospects that I think had the best chance of taking home a national championship this year. And I said, I just didn't think that Boston University had the roster to go on a run. Well, they sure proved me wrong. Unfortunately, couldn't get over that final hurdle, wind up falling short to Western Michigan in the national championship game, which I know had to be a heartbreaker for Blackhawks prospect Ryan Greene, who was the co-captain of the Terriers and returned to BU for his junior season to go and win a national championship. To have those dreams cut short in the final game to come so close and finish runner-up, I know just has to be absolutely devastating for Ryan Greene and the rest of that BU squad. And it has to be devastating, I'm sure, for Aidan Thompson and Denver as well, although a lot of players on that team are coming off a national championship the year prior. But they had their goal of winning back-to-back titles come to an end when they also fell to Western Michigan in the Frozen Four last Thursday, falling 3-2 in overtime, which was an incredible game, by the way. Blackhawks prospect Aidan Thompson scored the opener for Denver to get them on the board. They wind up willing themselves back to tie it up 2-2 in the final minutes of regulation, only for Western Michigan to go and get it done in double overtime, by the way. That game seemingly went on for forever. But with both of these teams falling short in the Frozen Four and with the national championship coming to a close over the weekend, both of those prospects were free to sign their entry-level deals with Chicago, and we saw that happen. First with Aidan Thompson, the 23-year-old 2022 third-round selection. Spent the last 3 years playing for the Denver Pioneers. Really strong first year. Kind of a quiet sophomore season, but responded in a massive way for his junior campaign. Although what I will say is he was among the older players in college hockey this year, but still, you'd rather have him be among the leading point scorers than not in that situation. That's exactly what Aidan Thompson was. He finished the year with 55 points, 21 goals, and 34 assists in 44 games. One of the top 3 players for the Pioneers this year, in my opinion, along with Zeev Buium and Jack Devine, a prospect for the Florida Panthers, who I know when I was just down in Orlando and talked with Armando Velez, they don't have a very deep prospect pool. That's the price of contending for Stanley Cups year in and year out. But Jack Devine is one of the few prospects that they have high hopes for in the Florida Panthers organization. But Thompson was definitely among the best players for the Pioneers all season long. I talked about him scoring important goals and having important moments for them in the NCAA tournament. He has officially signed a 2-year entry-level deal with the Blackhawks. It's only 2 years because of his age, but that first year will kick in at the start of next season as he's set to join on with the Rockford Ice Hogs for the remainder of this season on an AHL tryout. Not really sure if he'll get in any game action, but we have seen Martin Misiak, a Blackhawks prospect in the past, make his AHL debut with Rockford on an AHL tryout. So maybe that winds up being the case for Thompson. As far as what there is to know about Aidan Thompson and his potential NHL upside, I've always been intrigued by his speed, and I think he does have a good dynamic offensive ability, probably more of a playmaker than a goal scorer, but a capable goal scorer as well, someone who can score one-timers from the right dot on the power play. I don't think that's the role he's going to be playing for the Blackhawks or in the NHL, but he is a capable goal scorer along with a decent playmaker in his own right. The really key trait that's always stood out to me about Aidan Thompson is his decision-making in tight windows. Even when before his freshman season with Denver, when I watched him at Blackhawks development camp and just have watched him throughout the years as well, he executes and makes the proper decision in a hurry. And in the NHL, the game gets faster. Those windows to make decisions close. You just got to hurry up that processing speed. And I think Aidan Thompson has a really good processing speed to go along with a good but not great skating ability. I think he's more than likely, if he does wind up panning out as an NHLer with the Blackhawks, it's going to be on a third to fourth line role. I would like to see him, as he goes to the pro scene, continue to get stronger and maybe try to take on more of a serious defensive prowess, add that to his resume, because I think that would really complete his well-rounded nature. He's always been more known as an offensive-minded player. I don't necessarily know that's what he's going to be at the NHL. So he's going to have to find a way to be valuable and make an impact in other situations. I think that's the next goal for Aidan Thompson when he goes to Rockford, and that's likely where he'll be to open up the 25-26 season as well. Ryan Greene was a member of the 2022 draft class, but was a second-round selection by the Hawks, went 57th overall. To me, he undoubtedly is the one of the two who does have the higher NHL upside. He's the younger of the two players. He's only 21 years old, won't turn 22 until October, and has had 3 really strong college seasons for Boston University, tallying 30 points in all 3, making an immediate impact as a freshman for the Terriers. And then, as I talked about a moment ago, moving all the way up to co-captain of the squad for his junior season, helping them get to a national championship game. And all in all, he went on to tally 38 points, 13 goals, and 25 assists in 40 games this season. For him, it's going to be a 3-year entry-level contract, but again, this rule is kind of fuzzy to me, Blackhawks fans. I believe because he's set to make his NHL debut tonight here against the Montreal Canadiens, that will burn off the first year of his ELC. Again, I'm not absolutely positive of that, but I do believe that is the case. So still will wind up being a 2-year ELC if that is true, just like Aidan Thompson's running through 2 more seasons. But for Ryan Greene, what to know about him and his NHL upside, I don't think, again, he's someone who's going to be in the top 6 of the Blackhawks' future, but I think he's a capable offensive player. I like that he's a true center iceman and plays a two-way game, competes in the dirty areas, played on the penalty kill for BU in the past, has played on the power play. I also like that he scores a lot of his goals from right out in front or knows how to make himself available for a pass in the slot, can score some good one-timer goals. Doesn't have the best speed, but is a capable skater and is someone who makes an effort to make plays in all 3 zones. He's someone to me that's like Oliver Moore, but without the skating ability. Probably going to be a third-line center or a third-line winger as an NHLer for the Blackhawks, but it seems like from what I've read, they've been really happy with his development. They like how he's filled out his frame over the last couple of years, and I think continuing to do that will be really pivotal to his success against grown men at this level. But I really think he's going to be a third-line type of guy for the Blackhawks who can be a jack-of-all-trades type of player, someone who can go up to the top line from time to time. It's not going to be his natural role, but I don't think he'll be completely out of place. But he can also, play on the penalty kill, can play in defensive situations. You can throw him out there on power play too, potentially. And I don't think he's going to look out of sorts in any of those spots, right? Like, he reminds me a lot of Frank Nazar and Oliver Moore, with just not the same wheels and not the offensive upside, but still makes those winning types of plays, went to a prestigious organization and was coached by Jay Pandolfo, who's one of the most respected college coaches in the entire country for 3 years, knows how to develop players to go to the NHL, right? I mean, how many solid NHLers have we seen come from BU? It's a storied program. Like, I really think Ryan Greene is going to be an NHLer, and he's someone I've talked pretty highly about for the last couple of years, Blackhawks fans, and some of you may even remember in my Blackhawks bold predictions episode that I dropped at the beginning of this season, way back in October, One of those bold predictions was that Ryan Greene was going to make his NHL debut with the Blackhawks and sign his entry-level contract. That wasn't the bold part. That was to be expected. But I also said that he's going to score his first NHL goal before the season comes to a close. Now, I didn't think BU was going to be playing in the Frozen Four and their season was going to run this long and Ryan Greene would only have 2 cracks at that bad boy. But I'm going to stand by it, Blackhawks fans. I think, Ivan Demidov is going to be the one that everyone bets tonight. How fitting would it be? And listen, it would also be fitting if Ivan Demidov scored his first NHL goal. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big because of course guy. It seemingly always happens to the Blackhawks. But how fitting would it be if Ryan Greene sneakily was the one to score his first NHL goal in his NHL debut here tonight in Montreal? Would be pretty sick. I'm sticking with it, Blackhawks fans. I think it's either happens here tonight in Montreal or tomorrow in Ottawa. We'll see if that winds up being the case, but couldn't be more excited that yet another kid is joining the NHL roster in Ryan Greene. Aidan Thompson also inks his entry-level deal. He'll be joining on with the Rockford Ice Hogs. I'll be talking more about the Ice Hogs and what's going on with them and their playoff push on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. But until then, that's going to wrap up today's show, everyone. Thank you all for joining me again. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube if you haven't done so already, or go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free wherever you may be listening to your podcasts. That way you can get the latest episode as soon as it becomes available each and every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. You can check me out on X at Jack Bushman 2, but mostly go and follow my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey. That way you can get all of the latest Blackhawks news and updates. So until tomorrow's episode, everyone, have a great rest of your Mondays. Going to be fun to watch Ivan Demidov and Artyom Levshunov face off for the first time in the NHL here tonight. I'll recap that game and talk about the Rockford Ice Hogs and more on tomorrow's episode. But until then, enjoy the rest of your days. I'll see you next time on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.